what immediately comes to mind when you think Virgo? I'm sure some of the key words that pop in your head are perfectionist, detail oriented, analytical, neat freak, right? And you wouldn't be wrong. These are part of the energy signature of Virgo energy generally. However, much like every other sign, there's so much more to Virgo than meets the eye. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but many Virgos, right? Virgo sun and risings, and even moons to a certain extent, they tend to be a little withdrawn, right? It's like they walk into a room and they're not the one that's the life of the party. They're not the one that's the first one on the dance floor. Virgo is silently analyzing and judging everybody and everything. Now, some people may find this super annoying. However, Virgo serves a very important purpose. And I use the word serves intentionally because service is a very big part of the Virgo energy signature, sun and rising alike, right? Now, Virgo is more than just the person that's going to tell you about yourself even when you didn't ask, or the person that fixes the problem, right? Virgo, like everyone else, is multifaceted, especially Virgo risings. So did you know that Virgo risings tend to be very spicy when it comes to a certain area of life where spiciness is necessary? And you may also be surprised to know that when it comes to the finer things in life, Virgo doesn't like to skimp on that either. And I'm sure you also didn't know that when it comes to family, Virgo can be quite non-traditional, okay? And with the cherry on top, Virgo is secretly resentful about this one thing. All right. So if you want to know all about Virgo rising in your natal chart, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So today's video is the continuation of my rising sign series. And today we are talking all about Virgo rising, the infamous Virgo rising. I feel like whenever you hear Virgo, people immediately think Beyonce, right? Beyonce is very typical of Virgo energy. She's a Virgo sun, not a Virgo rising, but Virgo rising and Virgo sun obviously have a lot of the same characteristics. Now, what I want to mention before I get into the details of Virgo rising are a couple of things. Number one, these videos are meant to be a generalization. Rising signs, sun signs, moon signs, all of the zodiac signs have certain characteristics, right? However, how those characteristics play out for you depends on your particular natal chart. So I've gotten on some other videos, people have commented, well, that doesn't really resonate or whatever. And it may not resonate, right? Because maybe you feel more like your sun sign more than your rising sign. Or maybe the other configurations in your natal chart overshadow your rising sign characteristics. And that is perfectly fine. All right. That's how astrology works. Not everybody is the same. All right. And number two, rising signs are all about how the world sees you. Okay. It's not so much how you identify as yourself, which may be why a lot of people don't always necessarily vibe with their rising sign, especially if you're like a Gemini sun, but let's say like a Scorpio rising, your sun and your rising like are damn near incompatible. So people see you as a Scorpio, meanwhile, you're very much a Gemini, right? So I'm not going to say take everything with a grain of salt. What I am going to say is that understand that these are general characteristics. To know more about you and your particular rising sign and how it plays out for you, get a natal chart reading. I do them, of course, and currently they are $50 off. So the link will be in the description box below if you want to check that out. But now let's get into Virgo energy specifically before we start talking about rising signs. So Virgo. I find that people love it, hate it, or more importantly, most people don't even understand a Virgo energy. Ironically, everyone likes to put Virgo into a box, right? And just say, oh, they're perfectionists, they're nitpicky, they're this, they're that. And funny enough, that's what Virgo does to everything and everyone. Virgo compartmentalizes things. However, Virgo energy does not like to be put in a box. Virgo doesn't like to be labeled, even though Virgo's quote unquote job is to label everything. Virgo is the analyst. Have you ever noticed? And if you haven't, if you have the opportunity to do so, check it out. Virgo Sun or Virgo Rising, you take them out, right? Let's say you're going to a party. It's a couple of you, you're going to a party and you go with your Virgo Rising friend. Depending on the other characteristics or configurations in their natal chart, they're kind of going to hang back, right? They're not going to be the first one on the dance floor, probably. They're probably just going to be posted up in the corner, just looking, being kind of quiet, vibing a little to the music, but not doing the most. You think that they're just bored or distracted or whatever. Meanwhile, Virgo is literally analyzing everything like a computer, analyzing the food, the people, the lights, the drinks. And Virgo sort of makes order out of this situation. Virgo is able to tell you who's doing what, where they're at, what this is like, because Virgo sees and observes everything. And this is a characteristic that I think a lot of people take for granted because Virgo is known as the fixer. Anytime you need a problem solved, anytime you need someone to help fix your life, I can almost guarantee they're either a Virgo sun or a Virgo rising. And so people tend to put Virgo in that box: perfectionist, fixer, analyzer. But again, Virgo is so much more. And I will get into all of the juicy details coming right up. All right. But first, of course, we got to get into the basics. So let's talk rising signs generally. All right. So, what exactly is a rising sign anyway? And apologies if you've watched these other videos and you know what rising signs are, but my videos are meant for everyone, specifically beginners. So, some people may not even know the definition of a rising sign. So, your rising sign is part of your big three in astrology, namely your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign. Together, these three signs are like the main foundation of your personality. Okay. And if you want to know more about the big three in astrology, did a video all about it. Check it out here. Link will be in the description box below. All right. So, sun sign. This is the sign that most people are familiar with. This is the sign that the sun was in when you were born. So you'll know if you were born September 15th, you're a Virgo. You know if you are born April 1st, you are an Aries. December 24th, you're a Capricorn, so on and so forth, right? That is your outward personality. When it comes to how you identify and how you express yourself, that's represented by your sun sign. Then we have your moon sign. Your moon sign is the sign that the moon was in when you were born. Now, the moon changes every 2 to 3 days. So it moves around the zodiac wheel pretty quickly. Now, your moon sign has a lot to do with your inner world. Whereas your sun is your outer expression of your personality, your moon sign is your inner world, your emotions, your subconscious. It also represents your private life. Your sun sign represents sort of what you put out there. Your moon sign represents what you hold close to your chest and what you keep hidden, right? And your moon sign has everything to do with your emotions. So, how you deal with things emotionally, how you derive emotional satisfaction, all has to do with your moon sign. And then finally, we have your rising sign. Now, your rising sign is how the world sees you. It's like the sign that you hold up that the world sees first and foremost. And your rising sign has a lot to do with your physical appearance. So, your rising sign is really objective because it's not about how you identify, how you outwardly express yourself. It's not how you internally deal with your emotions and the situations around you. It's how the world sees you. So, it's a lot more objective. Hence, why a lot of people may not necessarily vibe with their rising sign because, again, it may be kind of incompatible with their sun sign or even their moon sign. All right. So now what exactly is a rising sign? So your rising sign is the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the moment that you were born. Okay, think of it as your personal sunrise. It represents your entry into this life, into this incarnation. At the moment that you came out of your mother's womb, there was a sign that was on the eastern horizon, and that is your rising sign. Now, you may hear people talk about rising sign and ascendant. They're used interchangeably, but there's a slight nuance with the two. So, your rising sign is just the sign itself. It doesn't pay attention to the degree. The degree of your rising is known as your ascendant. So, your ascendant would be, let's say, Gemini 12 degrees. Your rising sign would just be Gemini. All right. Now, it's really important that you know the exact time of your birth. That is what helps determine your rising sign. And the rising sign changes about every 2 hours. So there's a big difference between being born at 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. That means two completely different signs. The more precise your birth time is, the more accurate your natal chart would be because your ascendant, right? To use my example before, Gemini 12 degrees, it helps set up your whole astrological wheel and your natal chart. So even if you don't know your ascendant, if you don't know the time that you were born, you can still get certain information from your natal chart. However, it's not going to be accurate because you're not going to know which house each sign is. So it's really important to get your birth time. And again, your birth time determines your rising sign. So apart from the technical astrology jargon when it comes to rising signs, your rising sign has a lot to do with your physical appearance. This is why people who have the same rising sign tend to have certain similar physical characteristics. And hence why your rising sign is very objective because your physical appearance is the first thing that people see. And that's sort of how they categorize you when we're talking about your rising sign. So that's why it may not necessarily bode well with your personality. It may not bode well with how you deal with emotion, but how you look and how you present to the world is everything having to do with your rising sign. All right. So now, speaking of physical characteristics, let's get into the main characteristics of Virgo rising. All right. So what can we say about Virgo rising? So like I said before, your rising and your ascendant represent your first house. So it is the house of your appearance. It's how you show up in the world. So not only do your physical characteristics take on the energy signature of that sign, but how people perceive you and your personality is represented by your rising sign. So when we're talking about Virgo, generally speaking, the physical characteristics of Virgo tends to be sort of demure, right? Think of the iconography of Virgo. It is the virgin, right? A young maiden. So it's not to say that everyone that's a Virgo rising looks like a young maiden, but they're sort of delicate and soft features. Even for the men, it doesn't mean that men look feminine, but they have very soft, very clean features. I've heard a lot of people describe male Virgo risings as like metrosexual, right? Very clean cut. They could have a manicure, very well put together. I think that we can all agree that Virgo risings appear very well put together, neat, tidy, not a hair out of place. Sometimes they tend to be very perfectionist about how they look. They like to show up looking their best. I mean, who doesn't? But Virgo risings, they definitely probably take that to the next level. So when it comes to how people perceive you, their perception of you is very much in alignment with the characteristic Virgo traits. So they may see you as someone who's detail oriented, right? Maybe like when you sit down to eat, you have to put your fork and your knife just exact. Things have to be neat and orderly. There's a place for everything and everything in its place. Again, I feel that most people associate Virgo risings with being well put together, very neat and tidy, right? Also, very analytical. I find that many people rely on Virgos and Virgo risings for information because, like I said before, Virgo risings, they love to analyze things. They will break anything down to its bare essence and then be able to communicate that to you, right? For more information about Virgo, we have to look at Virgo's planetary ruler, and Virgo's planetary ruler is Mercury. Mercury is the planet of communication and ideas. Now, Gemini and Virgo share the same planetary ruler. Gemini is more of the communicative aspect of Mercury, whereas Virgo is more of the analytical characteristic of Mercury. Okay. So people come to rely on Virgo for information. People come to rely on Virgo for fixing things. People generally think or generally believe that Virgos are very dependable, especially when it comes to knowing things and information. The other thing I'll say about Virgo energy generally is that I think a lot of people view Virgo as a know it all, right? And sometimes Virgo has a bad reputation of coming off that way, right? Like we know everything. I'm a Virgo sun, so I can say that. But we kind of do. And it's not because we're better than anybody else, it's because we take the time to observe. Virgo will see things that nobody else will see. There's nothing that a Virgo won't notice. Let's just say that. So if you think you're getting over on a Virgo, whether sun, moon, or rising, you're really not because they know. It's more so whether they care to confront you or not. Now, one of the more interesting qualities of Virgo, and sort of speaking to the deeper psychological analysis of Virgo, is that, Virgo is very service oriented. To a certain extent, Virgo energy doesn't feel fulfilled unless it is serving. That's why you may find a lot of Virgos may sort of be, I don't want to say intrusive, but they will sort of interject their opinion. They want to tell you how to do things because they think they know how to do it best. It comes from this need to serve. And if you research the sort of mythology of Virgo, you'll understand why. In ancient Greece or ancient Rome, I can't remember, there were these Vestal virgins, and they were tasked with working in the temple of Apollo. And they had to feed the fire. The fire constantly had to be lit. And so their job was to feed the fire. And if the fire were to ever go out, if they were to make a mistake, they were thrown into the fire. Hence why Virgo tends to be very perfectionist. It's almost like because Virgo is so used to making order out of chaos, if Virgo doesn't make order out of chaos, they feel that the chaos will just envelop them or the world is going to implode. And it's not a personal thing. It's not like they're just necessarily passing judgment on you for no reason. It's more so this need to serve that is fueled by this perfectionism, coupled with the fact that Virgo is very detail oriented. So Virgo sees all of the moving parts, even the not so good ones, and has to fix it, has to make order out of it, which could be very strenuous and very stressful. Okay. Virgo's ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules the nervous system, hence why Virgos tend to worry a lot, hence why they tend to be very anxious. Okay. The other thing I'll say about Virgos in terms of the body, every zodiac sign rules a certain organ or a certain part of the body, and Virgo is the digestive system. So, Virgo risings may tend to have a lot of digestive issues, stomach issues, because they're constantly analyzing information, they're constantly taking things in. And it's almost like, how your stomach, it takes in the food and it breaks it down. That's exactly what Virgo does with information, right? And so Virgos tend to have very sensitive tummies and tend to have digestive issues at times, right? But again, Virgo is fueled by this need to serve. Okay. So when you see a Virgo looking nice and neat and tidy and well put together, sometimes a lot of people tend to hate on that, right? Because they're like, oh, who does Virgo think they are? They're always so perfect. They think they're perfect, blah, 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 blah. You know how much energy goes into that? Despite the fact that they look well put together, on the inside, they may be anxious as fuck. They may be second guessing everything, but they're never going to let you see that. They always show a very beautiful demeanor, very well put together, right? But nonetheless, we love that kind of energy and we need that kind of energy. Sometimes Virgo can be a little martyrish, though. That need to serve, that need to fix things, they do it even when it's not necessarily their job to do so. And that can be sort of an unhealthy example of Virgo energy where you're just giving, 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 even when no one's asking you to, and then becoming resentful when no one necessarily reciprocates. All right. So that can be a somewhat negative aspect of Virgo. But either way, we all know a Virgo that looks good, that presents well, all of that stuff. That's very much characteristic of Virgo energy. All right. So now that we talked about the main characteristics of Virgo rising, let's now talk about certain areas of life that can be expected from a Virgo rising. Or I said that kind of weirdly. Let's talk about the different areas of life for a Virgo rising. How about that? All right. So typically, there are three things that people like to know the most about, and those are relationships, money, and career and or job. So those are the three areas that I will now discuss for Virgo rising. Let's talk about money first. So whenever we want to ascertain money in our natal chart, there's two houses that we look at. The first house is the second house of money and material possessions. Those are your personal finances. And the other house that we look at is the eighth house, which is your house of shared resources and debt. So when it comes to your personal finances, how do you make money? Your second house is Libra. So you likely make money based off of relationships or working with other people. So maybe you have a partner that you make money with, or maybe your job requires you to have sort of one-on-one relationships with people. So this could be someone like a counselor, a referee, a mediator, a lawyer even, right? Anyone who deals sort of client facing one to one, where you communicate with people on a one to one basis, that's likely how you will make your money. The other thing is that Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus has a lot to do with creativity. So maybe you are involved in a creative kind of career or job. So maybe you're involved in art, music, beauty, fashion, right? And maybe if you're not doing any of those things, if you're looking to make more money in your life, manifesting more money will likely be fruitful for you if you were to work with people one on one. So this could be coaching also, right? Working together with someone, partnering up with someone, or doing something creative. That would be the most natural way for you guys to make money. So now when we talk about debt, we talk about your eighth house, and your eighth house is Aries. So when it comes to taking on debt, or when it comes to how you deal with other people's money, you tend to be quite headstrong and impulsive. You guys make decisions at the drop of a dime, right? And you may be very risky, or you may be someone who's very risky when it comes to borrowing other people's money, leveraging other people's money. You're very action oriented when it comes to debt. Now, this could be a good thing because you're a mover and a shaker. So when it comes to using other people's money, you don't necessarily hesitate to do that. However, when it comes to accumulating debt, you guys can be a little short sighted and impulsive. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. All right. So now let's talk relationships. So there are several houses within the natal chart that deal with relationships. So we're going to talk about romantic relationships because that's what everyone wants to know. All right. So the first house that you want to look at when we're talking about romance and romantic relationships specifically is your fifth house, because that is the house of romance. And for you, this is Capricorn, right? Not very romantic, I must say. Capricorn is not necessarily known for its romantic style. So when it comes to romance, what's most important to you is stability. You're not necessarily, or let me not generalize, you may not necessarily be someone who is like a serial dater who's really out there. You're looking for a stable dating life. You're not trying to be all over the place, right? You want stability. You also like status, okay? So you may tend to date people who have high status, people who are like a boss, an authority figure. You also may tend to like people who are older than you. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. Capricorn and Saturn equals old. Let's just say that. And so when it comes to your romantic life and dating, you likely like to date people who are older than you. And it's not to say that you're necessarily devoid of romance. I will say that you just kind of take things a little more seriously and practically when it comes to your romantic life. Now, the next house that we would look at when we're talking about relationships is the seventh house. This is the house of committed partnerships. So, your marriages. And so, when it comes to that, Pisces is your seventh house. And you guys are extremely soft and sensitive when it comes to your committed partnerships. You guys already have this element of service, like I mentioned before, but in your marriage, you guys are super giving yet super sensitive, right? Pisces, your opposite sign, is also the other sign associated with service. So you tend to really give. It's almost like you can anticipate your partner's needs, right? You sense it. Pisces is a water sign, highly spiritual, highly psychic. So many of you regard your marriages as something very sacred, something very spiritual. You like to form deep emotional bonds with your partner, and you love to be of service to them. It's very altruistic, right? It's like this selflessness. Now, also, the thing with Pisces energy is that it has like no boundaries. So it's almost like there's nothing you wouldn't do. However, setting healthy, firm boundaries in your marriages may be a challenge for you, but will ultimately be very necessary. Otherwise, you muddy the waters and at a certain point, you don't know where your emotions begins and your partner's end. Everything just comes mixed up together, which could lead to a lot of feelings hurt, especially if that love and that selflessness is not reflected back to you. All right. Now, the other thing I want to say about relationships, and I sort of alluded to this in the intro, is that Virgo is very spicy when it comes to bedroom activities. Okay. So, apart from your eighth house covering debt and shared resources, it's also your house of intimacy, AKA the house of sex. And for you, that's Aries. Aries is all about the physical action. Now, even though your seventh house is Pisces and you guys are really emotional and you're so into it, right? When it comes to your partner, when it comes to sex, you guys are porn stars. Let's just say that. Let's just call it what it is. You guys tend to be very physical in the bedroom and ultra, ultra spicy and passionate. All right. So now let's switch gears and let's talk about career and job. So to differentiate, your job is like your 9 to 5, your daily activities. Your career is your overarching life purpose, vocation, all that good stuff, right? So when it comes to your job, aka your 9 to 5, we look to your sixth house, and your sixth house is Aquarius. So when it comes to work, you guys think outside the box. You guys really are the thinkers. You guys are the fixers, and you guys are the innovators. You guys make things better. Interestingly enough, Aquarius, one of the planetary rulers of Aquarius is Uranus. Uranus is what I like to call the hand of God. And the hand of God can be very chaotic, but you can navigate that chaos. You make order out of that chaos, right? And you're able to fix things and innovate things and improve upon things. So you may find that in your daily activities or in your 9 to 5, you're probably very valuable or you're very valued, you're highly esteemed as someone who could really solve problems. Okay. Now let's talk about your career. Your overarching career, we look to your 10th house, and your 10th house is Gemini. It's your planetary ruling sister sign. That's not really a thing. I just made that up. But both you and Gemini are ruled by Mercury. And so when it comes to your career, communication is your thing. You are a writer, you are an orator, you are a speaker. Either way, you're very comfortable speaking and expressing yourself. You might also do quite a few things, or there may be several disciplines that fall under the umbrella of your career because Gemini is like a multitasker. Gemini has always a lot of things on their plate. And so when it comes to your career, there's probably different facets of your career. They probably all meld together. However, they're very distinct in and of themselves. You're probably always busy on the go. You're probably always talking to people. And I want you to take notice of how your second house is Libra, right? How you make money. Libra is an air sign. And then your 10th house of career is also an air sign, Gemini. So when it comes to thinking, when it comes to speaking, when it comes to communicating, this is how you make your money. This is how you were designed. This is how you make a career for yourself. All right. So again, much more than meets the eye when it comes to Virgo rising. All right, so now let's get into some really juicy details about Virgo rising that I'm sure you didn't know. All right, so I spoke about how earlier I spoke about our moon signs, right? And our moon signs are sort of our inner world, our emotions, sort of what we keep private. Now, we all have a hidden side to us, and that hidden side is represented by our 12th house. Typically, this is the side of ourselves that we aren't even aware of. It is literally our subconscious, right? And so, a lot of times, you'll find that what's hidden to you is almost completely opposite from your everyday personality or how you express yourself. Now, remember I said before, Virgo is a sign of service. Virgo is the fixer. People tend to depend on Virgo rising to fix things, right? It also lends itself to sort of being a support system. Virgos make great managers, they make great supervisors. They're very much in a supporting kind of role. And as I alluded to before, this is the thing that a lot of Virgo risings tend to resent Because oftentimes Virgo is seen as the fixer, right? People come to fix things, but rarely does anyone fix anything in Virgo's life. Virgo is sort of left to their own devices to put their life in order. Meanwhile, they're cleaning up and organizing everything and everyone. Now, this resentment comes from the fact that Virgo rising's 12th house is Leo. Leo is main character energy. Virgo is like the supporting actress. Leo is like the actress, the main character. Hence why Virgo risings tend to have this sort of secret resentment. Because not only do Virgos not want to necessarily always be in the supporting role, they want to be in the limelight. A lot of times, Virgo energy is assisting someone that's got like Leo energy or sort of extroverted energy. Virgo is sort of what props them up. Meanwhile, Virgo risings tend to be a little resentful of that. Virgo wants to be in the spotlight sometimes. Virgo doesn't want to always have to fix everybody's shit. I mean, we know it's our job, but we don't always like it. We want someone who can help us out. We want to feel like the main character. We want to shine. And a lot of times I say we, even though I'm a Virgo sun, but you get what I mean. A lot of times Virgo rising grapples with that because on the surface, we derive emotional satisfaction from helping, from supporting, from fixing. But deep in the recesses of our subconscious, oh, we're the kings and the queens, honey. We want to be. We want to be recognized. That recognition for what we've done, not just come in and get your life together and then leave, right? We don't always necessarily, I keep saying we don't always necessarily enjoy that. So Virgo risings may have this resentment that they carry. They want to be the main character. They want to be like Leo, right? Leo energy, it's playful, it's fun, it's childlike. Virgo energy is very serious. That analyzing, that fixing, that's very grown up, mature energy. Meanwhile, on the inside, Virgo rising really just wants to take a break. They want to just do something creative. They just want to play. They don't want to have to fix things. They want to get people to fix things for them. So when we're talking about our 12th house characteristics, we really have to engage in shadow work and be able to integrate our shadow into our light selves, meaning we integrate our hidden side into our external side, right? It's like bringing together your dark and your light. So, in doing so, you become more whole as a person because the more that you deny your shadow side, the more it's going to come out at inappropriate times, or you're going to lash out at someone, right? So, as a Virgo rising, it will really help you to dive deep into your desire to be seen, your desire to be the main character, your desire to have people fix things for you rather than you doing it for them. And when you understand that, when you integrate that into your life, you won't harbor that inner resentment anymore. All right. So sometimes you have to not be so serious. Sometimes you need to embody those Leo characteristics so that you have some kind of balance in your life. Because trust and believe, if you're always fixing, you're always analyzing, you're always Virgoing, at some point you're going to burn yourself out. And that's when that resentment comes to the surface. So integrating those Leo characteristics into your personality will help make you a much more well-rounded person. All right, my loves. So that concludes this video on Virgo rising in the natal chart. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use, or at least a factoid that you now can be proud to say that you know. All right. For more information on my products and services, all of that is listed in the description box below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.